Welcome to the Backpacking and Blisters podcast. With me today is Ben McAuliffe. How's it going, man?
It's going good. How are you?
I am doing good. I'm excited we're going to have Dan Durston on our show. Cutting edge gear that's been released with more to come. So we'll get to that here in a couple minutes. But he's somebody who's like not afraid to revolutionize the gear industry. So I got to ask you, man. For you, what's the next step for any piece of backpacking gear that nobody has thought of so far?
Well, I was looking at Durston's stuff, and he has a trekking pole, which you're going to ask him about. And so I'm thinking next level stuff is like, why don't we just kind of have a glove that you just kind of fit on the trekking pole? So we'll see what he thinks of that, maybe, you know?
So your cutting edge gear is a glove.
Yeah. Well, you have a glove, don't you, that you invented? Are you making fun of my glove?
It just sounds like it's a glove. What's that? Like do normal gloves not fit on?
It's a glove that's like mounted on the trekking pole.
Oh, mounted.
Yeah.
Mounted. Okay. I was like, what?
Yeah. Sorry, did I forget that part?
Yeah, you said a glove that fits on a trekking pole. Like you can wear it and it'll actually grab the trekking pole.
Has nobody made gloves before?
A piece of cloth that goes around each finger individually.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. Do they have that already? A glove mounted to a trekking pole?
I think where it's colder, but I don't know. Like mine's just
the scenario is it's cold outside, and so whenever you are done trekking, you want to take your hands out of your gloves.
I don't know. Mine is just like you just don't want to not hold your trekking pole. Like I like the straps, and so maybe a glove like just forms it, so you can rest your hands inside the glove.
All right, gotcha. That's funny. Okay. Well, we have the honor of being the flagship podcast for Enlightened Equipment. So that is who's bringing you this episode. If you're looking for ultralight custom quilts that can help you get your base weight down, then go to enlightenedequipment.com. All right. So Bible verse of the episode, is that you or me this time?
That's you.
Okay. 2 Timothy 3:17, that the man of God may be complete, equipped for every good work. Does cutting edge gear help equip us for good works?
Yeah. I mean, when you're out in the field doing mission work or doing whatever, doesn't good gear help you? I mean, you know, I live out in the sticks, and so if I don't have the right equipment, man, is it a chore to like do certain things?
Right. Okay. So what you're saying is you use your gear. Your gear allows you to do work, or in the case of backpacking, have an adventure. Whereas others might go on an adventure or go on a backpacking trip so that they can use their gear.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, would you rather just use your backpack that you normally backpack with, or a plastic bag to carry all your gear?
Definitely a plastic bag. Is that what you're going for?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's really what you want. Okay.
Point made.
I'll hold you to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But maybe there's going to be some sort of revolutionary plastic bag that Durston's got in store for us. It's ultralight that will be an efficient way to carry stuff, right? So we'll find out.
65-liter plastic bag.
That's right. All right. So we'll find out if that is true coming up right now. With us today is a man who continues to revolutionize the gear industry with innovative designs. Dan Durston, how's it going today?
Hey, awesome. Great to be here.
Hey, man, we're excited you're back on the show. Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Where are you sitting right now? Like, it looks like a classroom.
This is my office. I decorated the wall behind just for this podcast, so it doesn't look as like insane asylum. It was just a white room. The picture was there, but I just put the map up so I look cooler for you guys.
So it makes it look like you're more legit.
Yeah, I'm trying to look legit. You know, like I just quickly changed out of my suit and tie to get the outdoor clothes on.
Right.
And then
did you really put the map on the wall for the podcast?
We're actually moving office next door right now.
Okay.
And so they were abandoned here. And today I was like, oh, these poor maps. So I did put it up today, but it wasn't really for the podcast.
All right, what's your craziest backpacking experience? If you can keep it like kind of short. We can't go the whole podcast, but
kind of short, like dangerous, like almost dying type thing.
Whatever you think's like a crazy backpacking experience.
The one of like the craziest was the first time I went pack rafting. I go pack rafting. I got this pack raft. I got it in the Christmas sale, so I get it in January. Like, there's nowhere warm to pack raft here in Canada in January. But in February, this river had opened up, so it was just sort of, you could paddle it, but it was ice cold. I get out there, and I've got this brand new boat. It's not that backcountry, but it's side country. And I've never paddled a kayak paddle before, so the blades are twisted. So you're trying to paddle, but you're like catching air, essentially. Like you don't have the blades right up.
Yeah.
So I go around, and it's kind of terrifying. You're on the water. You don't really know what's coming. I'm new to this. You're kind of not sure about how to assess hazards. And I come around this corner, and there's like a tree across the river. So then I'm like, not totally sure what to do. And I try to sort of paddle for shore, but I'm just like catching air with this paddle because I've got the blade twisted all the wrong way.
Yeah.
I sort of do make it to shore, but I should have just dove onto the shore. But I grabbed this like rock, and it was in sort of a gravel bed. So I grabbed this rock, and it just like, I dropped my paddle, grabbed the rock, and the rock just like pulls out of the bank, and I get spun like backwards going into this tree. So this is pretty dangerous. It's poor style to go through strainers, especially by yourself in the backcountry. So I'm backwards going to this tree. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I just like dive overboard to try to go under this tree. The river's not that deep. I did make it through the tree. So I pop up. It happens like so fast and so dramatic. You can't really like perceive the experience of going through the tree. But I like get out. I swim to the shore. My boat's like stuck in the tree.
Yeah.
I eventually like my paddle comes floating down, so I have to jump into the river again. It's like this brand new $400 paddle. Jump into this February river, grab the paddle, get out, and the raft is like filling up with water in the main area. Eventually, it gets enough weight that it squirts through the tree. Took like 5 minutes because I had to walk back up the bank and it filled up. Jump into the river third time. I'm like drenched, obviously drenched, but like ice cold. Drag this boat out of the river. Everything's soaked, and then I kind of didn't know it at the time, but the tree was actually like pretty traumatic, and I had like bruises like all over my body because I would have just forced through like branches. So super sketchy. So that's not something anybody should do.
Did you keep the rock?
No, it was like a big boulder that just fell into the river.
You said you grabbed it. I'm imagining you holding it like while you're going under the tree. Like this will sink me so I can squirt under the tree. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. If I would have been a little more present and got kind of, I mean, I should have just bailed out. But if I would have been facing the right way, I could have tried to jump over the tree. But
like a video game. That's what I was thinking. Like Mario Brothers, you just kind of jump up and over.
Yeah.
So that was super sketchy for sure. Would not want to do that again.
Wow.
On the surprising side, that boulder sounds like it was really heavy. Was still lighter than Ben's pack on a backpacking trip. So imagine that. Yeah. All right. So okay, just you're soaking wet. You're on the bank of the river. I don't know what the temperature, like the ambient air temperature is, but did you have to like start a fire? Did you change clothes? What was how did you survive this?
Yeah, I had parked my car at the end and hiked for like an hour or two upstream. And so when I was out, everything's drenched. I sort of wrung out my coat, but it's still like, I would think it would be below freezing. Like maybe it was like 25 F. And so, but I knew actually from the Bob Open the year before that you can do pretty well by keeping moving and like generating body heat. So I just like kind of grabbed my stuff, shoved it in the backpack, and then I'm just like speed walking. And you're like shivering for like 45 minutes, but eventually you sort of warm up and get to your car, and that worked out.
That's what Bear Grylls teaches us, that if you just start doing push-ups, get the blood moving,
That's true.
It warms you up.
He's a lot of really good information. Bear Grylls does a lot.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, glad you're okay and glad you were close enough to your car. So that's that's a crazy story right there. All right. And it sounds like it was kind of like boom, boom, boom. Okay.
Yeah. I got a little over my head. Just like I really didn't know how to assess the hazards. I just thought this river was pretty chill.
Yeah.
And
well, again, glad you're okay, man. So it's been about a year since you were on our show last, and in that time, I think you've had 2 big releases for Durston Gear here. So release number 1 is you put out some new trekking poles that I was checking out from afar. So can you tell us about those?
Yeah, I brought one here. They're cool. Like they're kind of something that from afar they just look like kind of like a trekking pole. But they're so light. It's like when people pick these up, it's like everybody smiles when they pick them up. So they are.
I don't know why I'm picturing him like throwing it like at the wall behind him to be like, look how light these are.
Yeah. I do need to have some sort of demo here, where I like set it on a feather or something.
Yeah, like some sort of scale or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So we sell trekking pole tents, obviously,
Right.
and a natural fit with that would be trekking poles. We could sell them, could have been selling them for a long time, but it's something where it's kind of lame if you just sort of make like most trekking poles. I shouldn't say most. A lot of trekking poles are kind of white label, where there's a lot of. There's really two tiers of trekking poles. There's like high end quality poles from like respected brands, Black Diamond, Comfort L, Lecky, like that kind of thing.
Right.
And then there's sort of this like cheap class, which are totally fine poles too, but they're often kind of white labeled, where factories in all over the world, Asia essentially, will have a bunch of poles, and companies will just slap their logo on them, and they're fine, like they work fine.
Yeah.
But it's kind of boring as a product. It's just sort of another.
You totally, it's unbelievable when you're like, yeah, they're fine, they work. Like you're like, not believable at all.
Well, what they are is like for the money. Like if you just want to spend $50, there's a pretty big price difference. There's like $60 poles, and then there's like $200 poles.
For sure.
And I wouldn't sort of like, I don't know what the word is, behoove somebody. Is that a word? I don't know, but I wouldn't be sort of malign somebody for wanting an affordable pole.
Right.
And because they're pretty good. Like they're not like going to be like awesome or like the best experience. They're not going to be the quality and the lightest and things like that, but they're going to work. So for a lot of people that does make sense, but we didn't want to just, I think it would kind of dilute the brand if we just put our logo on kind of mediocre stuff. So I wanted to actually design a quality pole. And for a long time, I didn't know how do you make a trekking pole better? They're all like, you feel like it's kind of been done because it's like a pole. You're like,
like a stick.
Handle, like,
I don't know, man. There's always, I always feel like that's true. And then somebody comes out with some sort of new thing, like, which is kind of what you did, where that's not
like
true,
like the curved trekking poles that they have, like
there's some crazy ones. Yeah. Like the whatever pacer pole handles and things like that.
Right.
Yeah. So eventually what I realized on poles, I was thinking about them for like years, and what I came to realize from looking at hiking poles and looking at running poles, that you saw quite a bit of innovation on running poles. There'd be all these they'd rapidly deploy, and they'd have like quick connections and things like that. But they weren't actually lighter because they have so many sections and they have a cable down the middle. It's kind of like an avalanche pole.
Right.
But some of that technology is stuff that you don't see on a hiking pole. Hiking poles were almost all a 3-piece pole with 2 adjusters, and your kind of big decision was like twist lock or like a flick lock, like external adjuster. Flick lock's a brand name, so I think that's what's called, external adjusters. But anyways, but so I was thinking about this, and you see these connectors on running poles that are so much lighter, and you start thinking about it, and you're like, I realized that you want a 3-piece pole because it'll fit in your backpack. If you have a 2-piece or a 1-piece, it's just going to be too tall. You could use a 2-piece, but it's sticking up. If you're bushwhacking or ducking under logs, it's annoying. So you want a 3-piece pole, but then having 2 adjusters, I feel like, is actually not just sort of unnecessary, but it's a negative, because if you have 2 adjusters, now it's more weight. It's 2 different spots that could slip. If you want to set your pole to a certain height, you're sort of looking at one, looking at the other.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So it's like, it's just more hassle. And you're like, why do I have 2 adjusters? Because the first adjuster lets it go from full height to like 2/3. And then it's already super short if you bottom. So like, why do I want another one? So I thought, well, why don't we pull basically a running style adjuster into the pole, replace the second adjuster with a simpler thing. So we have, where's the bearing field? So you got the handle. There it is.
Right.
The screen's a mirror image, so it's hard to operate.
I know, it's kind of hard to show.
So the top one is an external adjuster, so it's like super simple and reliable. And then that's essentially it. So you're just using this. And then at the lower break, we've got this simpler quick connect mechanism where you just push a button and it ejects the tip.
Okay.
So it's super positive. It can't slip because there's actually, like, it clicks together. There's parts that like butt. So day to day, you just use it like a 2-piece. But if you want to use it away or bring it on an airplane or in your luggage or go bushwhacking, you can actually still pack the pole away. And so that was the first idea. And then you start looking at poles and you realize there's actually more like weight savings than you would think. Like there was on a grip. Some of the poles have like, this sounds nerdy, but like 7 grams of glue to put on the grip.
Really?
Where it's like, because the tolerances are kind of large. So
Okay.
they basically just sort of fill the gap with the glue, but the glue is way heavier than the foam. So you're like,
Oh,
well, if we
okay.
just make the grip fit tighter, we don't actually need. It's like wood glue. Like you're supposed to have 2
Yeah.
pieces of glue that fit together, and you should have a thin layer of glue. You could take
Right.
2 poorly fitting pieces and a big thick layer of glue, but it's like it's clumsy and it's not going to be strong and it's light. And
Right.
so
but they're not using wood glue on the trekking pole, just to clarify.
We are not. I wish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You're using ultralight glue, right? That's
we have the world's lightest glue.
Okay.
No, we didn't invent any new pieces, but we did make the grip fit tighter to use a few grams less glue. This saves some weight. The really high end carbon saves weight, and a few other things. Like the tip's integrated right into the carbon.
Okay.
People worry about that because they say, well, how do I replace that? And it's actually easier because normally if you have a big plastic grip here and you lose the tip, you have to remove the old one, which means like boiling it in water and twisting it off, and then you can put in a new one. These ones, if you ever lose the carbide, you can just immediately buy a replacement clip and it just slides right on. So it's actually your first replacement's easier, and then thereafter you would have to pull the old one off and remove.
Okay.
So I'm excited about them because I think it feels kind of basic. It's just like 3-piece pole with 1 adjuster. And it's not like nobody has ever done that. When we developed these, I had never heard of anyone. Once you release a product and you say nobody's ever done this, then like the entire internet's trying to find somebody who's done it. And
they're like, oh yeah.
So was that your claim that you guys were the first ones to not use a lot of glue?
Not the glue, but the 3-section with 1 adjuster. There is a
Ben still
pole
thinks glue. Sorry.
Yeah, the glue is fascinating. We also like dialed back the lacquer. There's only like a gram of lacquer on the pole, but we got it down to like half gram.
It's crazy to think like how much you like weigh everything for ultralight. Like it's like, well, the glue is this much, the lacquer is this much. Like I would just think like, obviously this is why I'm not a manufacturer, because I would just spray and put glue in there and like be like, hey guys, the bigger the glob, the better job. Hold it tight,
Yeah, there's a core, like for ultralight, there's a core sort of way of thinking that is interesting. If you think about each decision individually, you're like, it's a gram, this rain jacket's 20 grams more, big deal. I can carry 20 grams, of course. This, any one decision doesn't break the camel's back. So if you make every decision individually, none of them are a big deal. You could choose the other way on any given decision, but collectively, I went through this where like I had my pack pretty light at like 8 pounds, and then I was like, oh, I can go a little heavier on the rain jacket, a little warmer, and then all of a sudden, like years go by of just sort of this habit of just like a little more weight's fine, big deal, and then you're like, well, I'm at like 12 pounds instead of 8, and like it actually like sort of it adds up, creeps up over time. So. I'm still nerdy and all that, but it does add up.
I know this has been discussed before, but I didn't actually read the commentary on this, but for me, when I use trekking poles, I heavily lean on the strap, and yours don't have straps. And I know that you've gotten questions or comments about that. So what's the line of thinking on that?
Yeah, great. Straps are one of those topics that I sort of wandered into a bit naively, where I did not realize people were as passionate about. Oh yeah, it's like Mac versus PC or something, where you're like
strap or no strap.
That was us with carabiners. Our biggest thing was carabiners. Like we're anti-carabiner, and people get freaked out. So we get it.
So it's people use their poles in different ways. There's an argument for both. The argument, I'll give you the both sides of the argument. The argument that I have is that like for hiking, I'm not putting a lot of power down. Like as you're putting more and more power down, you have to squeeze harder so that it doesn't slip. So if you were like trail running, or you were cross country skiing where you're like really pushing at a high intensity.
That's what I was doing. Yeah.
I can totally see that. I
was. I'm being serious.
I believe you. I just picture you like really pushing down on the poles.
One of the super hikers. Here he comes. Everybody get out of the way. Carl's coming through.
That's right.
Serious.
Do you put bells on the? Can we put bells on your trekking poles?
Oh my gosh.
So certainly,
All
if
right.
you're high intensity, you want a strap. Other applications like downhill skiing, people sometimes use straps, but you're not really pushing at all. And then sometimes it's nice to be able to let go of them if like you're crashing and that kind of thing.
Right.
I find for me that the amount of power I'm actually putting down on a sustained basis is low enough that I don't find it tiring to hold the grip. And then I like the simplicity of it where I can just grab them and go. I'm not like putting my hand in every time I
That
stop
makes
or
sense.
taking a photo, putting it out. If I get it caught on like the log slats on a bridge, I can just let go. So I prefer without them. I do see how if somebody is like putting power down, it is technically more efficient and you can transfer that. You can stop using your hand muscles and just put it directly on the wrist.
Right.
So I thought probably all my sort of good ultralight hikers, probably most of them would be on my side and not use straps. I thought maybe 70% of people were non-strap. And I think it's actually the other way around. It's more like 30% are non-strap and 70% do want strap. Yeah. So that was a big debate. Like we launched these polls and the number one conversation topic by far was like, no straps. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
like,
right.
How do I put the straps on?
Is that more because you're like, I mean, you're like setting trends here. You're trying to teach people like you don't need straps.
Yeah, the enlightened.
Like I like the straps because for me it's just I don't know why, like a false security. Like if I fall, like
they're training wheels.
Go anywhere. They're yeah, exactly.
Internally, we joke that it's the strap version is the training wheel edition.
It's a training wheel edition. That's
I hope
you
sell them like that. I'm like you want straps. It's like I hope you sell them as like training wheel trekking poles.
You know, like the kids' mittens, where you got the two mittens and you got the string that runs.
Yeah,
that's like, it's like that. You don't want to lose your poles. We don't want Ben to drop his poles off a cliff, so he's got to use the straps.
Ben actually like carabiners his poles, like the straps, to the little like thumb loop on his shirt, so that way they don't come off at all.
Yeah.
You're lifting a carabiner with every.
He's got it. I'm just being silly. He's going to do that.
Okay. So
he's like, why would you do that, Ben?
All right. So we launched the poles and the straps was the big drama, and that was kind of good in a sense that I'd rather have there be a lot of drama about some feature that people want than like, oh, I hate how it looks, which is like out of your control, or like the color is terrible, or like, then you're just kind of like, oh, that's a bummer. Like they just, or it's a stupid product. Like people just don't like the product, that sucks. But if it's just like, oh, we kind of like them, we just sort of want an extra feature on them. It's like, okay, like I'm not so dogmatic about it that we're like, no, we're never going to make a version with straps. We are. I've said we are making a version with straps when they're back in stock, and in 3 weeks we will have a strap version.
Okay.
And you can still, I mean, I'm kind of being a purist on it too, because you can still on the strap version, which I don't have here, but there's a pin and you can push it out and you can remove the strap. So it's not like,
oh, okay.
It's, if you want to take the training wheels off later, you can do that.
Okay.
I'm thinking I have to
version...
like take tape and like tape it to my hand now.
That's right.
Yeah, you should.
That's right. Will the strap version be called the Durston trekking pole training wheel 2.0 or something like that?
We are probably just going to call it that internally.
Okay.
It's kind of a good nature joke.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's a little long. We'll cut. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, we're gonna
like the TW.
Yeah, we should. And there's sort of meanings for it. It means like training wheel, but also just like something more professional.
Right.
So the polls have been popular, and we'll add that version, and then polls for everybody.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
Okay, well, congrats on the trekking poles for sure.
Yeah. So tell us about your new tent now. We saw some great responses, and it looked cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's a tent that I've been working on for a long time because obviously the X-Mid tents have been huge for us, and I've been passionate about how the layout, it's kind of hard to explain on the podcast, but the layout makes a tent work inside of a simpler rectangle shape using a non-rectangular floor, and you can fit the vestibules inside. So you simplify the shape, and that has some advantages for trekking pole tents, like making it simpler to pitch. And it also has advantages for freestanding tents. And one of the main advantages is that on a lightweight freestanding tent, normally a pole set is just going to go to the four corners. So the fly will usually be a hexagon, where the poles just go to the four corners and then you have to stake out the vestibules. So
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
downsides there where like the vestibules hang off tent pads, you have to stake them out. And also if you don't have the tent interior, if you have the four pole corners, but the floor is not there to hold them, they just want to spring
Mhm.
out because the sides
Yeah.
are not a straight line. So that if you try, so the core problem is that almost all those tents pitch with the interior first, the rectangle interior, so that it holds the poles, and then you throw the hexagon fly over top. And from being like involved all over the world, you see that in North America, that's how tents usually are, is this inner first pitch where the poles clip to the interior and then you throw the fly on.
Yeah.
Where in other parts of the world, people think that's crazy. Like in Northern Europe, where it's raining a lot, like in the UK, they're like you're just going to get your interior drenched when you set it up. And so I wanted to make a tent that kind of, obviously we're trying to make a tent that's like better at everything, but I was trying to make a tent that could essentially do either, because I recognize that people do want to set up interior first. So like beautiful night, you can just pitch the interior. That's a great thing. But I also totally understand how if it's pouring rain, you don't want to start with the interior. So how do we make a tent that couldn't just do either? A lot of tents will say they can do both, but usually it's these inner first pitching tents where you got to bring a ground sheet or you got to bring straps, and you have to buy this extra thing and remember to bring it and remember how to use it. And it's pouring rain and you're still sort of crawling under, and it just like realistically doesn't happen because it's not a natural, intuitive way of using the tent. Whereas with the Xmid floor plan, because it's simpler and the fly is a rectangle, then you can have the geometry of it gets so complicated. But essentially, one of the key things with our new tent is that it can pitch naturally in any order: fly first, inner first. The inner can be pre-connected, so it pops up as one, or it can go up separately. However you want to pitch the tent, it's just going to work.
Okay.
You almost don't need a pitching video for it because it's kind of like whatever you try to do, with a few exceptions. Whatever you try to do is pretty much
it's gonna work.
You don't know me very well, Dan.
you can't like put the interior like upside down.
Okay, because we have creative ideas over here. We could figure something out for sure.
Yeah, you could. There are ways of doing it wrong. So
Yeah,
it
I know what you're
solves
saying.
that, and it sort of has the best of both, like North American style and European style. You could do either one. Another big thing is the polyester. Our tents are polyester. We didn't invent it, but we are very passionate, or by we, I mean me, very passionate polyester advocates, because polyester, I just think, makes so much sense because it doesn't, it's not hydrophilic, like water loving. So it doesn't swell up, absorb water, dry slow, lose strength. Nylon is sucking up water because it's attracted. It's on a molecular level, the amide bonds are attracted to water, so it soaks up water. When it expands, everything gets further apart in the chemistry, so it's weaker. And then because the water is not just on the fabric, but it's like inside, and not just like between the threads, but it's like in the fibers. So it's going to dry slow, and that's caused all sorts of problems over the years. Like when tapes have when tents have the seam tape delaminate, like an old tent, you pull it out and the seam tape's going to go. Usually what that is the water wicks through the fabric under the tape, and then you dry the tent, and you think it's dry because it might even feel dry.
Right.
But actually it's damp inside the fabric, and especially under the tape where it dries the slowest.
Oh, interesting.
So you still have moisture in there that's stuck, and then you pack away the tent, and the moisture is like slowly degrading some of these coatings.
Okay, wait. So if you have one of those tents, do you
Mhm.
recommend like extra drying it out? So you think it's dry, but leave it out for an extra day or whatever to make double,
you should.
cure?
You should,
Okay.
because it really is. Like nylon really is water inside, where the surface is going to be dry before the center.
Okay.
It's just like when you cook a turkey, like the outside cooks before the center. Same with drying a fabric, like the outside dries before the center. So like they're thin fabric. I mean, I don't want to like make too big of a deal about it, but they're thin fabric, so they all can dry pretty quick. But if you have a corner of the tent where maybe it's not even getting as much air because it's a corner, and then the water's under the seam tape, like you do just definitely, if you're storing it long term, make sure that it's dry.
Okay.
And
would you recommend putting it in the oven on a low setting and just kind of warming it a little bit?
You could, if you have a proof setting on your, like for rising bread, it could be a good thing. Yeah, I mean, it's a little risky. Don't do it and say Dan said, but
you started talking about turkey, and he's like, oven, turkey.
Yeah.
Oven, turkey.
Is that
really So nylon does that, and nylon became a big thing in lightweight tents because it was available in much lighter versions. And there is some argument for it being stronger for the weight. Like it's not without any merit. but I did find that the strength for the weight was overstated. It's not that big of a difference, and nylon weakens when it's wet. So maybe it's 20% stronger, and then when it's wet, it's only 10% stronger. So it's not actually that big of a difference. And there's new formulations coming out for polyester. We released a high strength version. So one of the cool things with the new 10 is it's this high tenacity or high strength polyester that is stronger than other polyesters for the weight. So it's basically on par with nylon. And our tent is, as far as I know, it's the only like really light freestanding polyester tent. There's all sorts of polyester trackable tents, and it depends on your definition of light, of course. There's like 3-4 pound polyester tents for sure, but we have what might be the lightest kind of tent fabric, polyester tent fabric. I gotta breathe more. What might be the lightest polyester?
I thought you were getting choked up about your tents.
Your scientific and gear knowledge combined in one fabric. It's impressive.
Yeah.
I kind of expected next time you have some like chemistry sets going in the background.
That's right.
Yeah, I should. Next interview, I'll have like
lab coat.
Yeah, just for you guys. That's hilarious. So the fly first, inner first pitch is cool. The fabric polyester is cool. It doesn't sag. It dries fast. And then there's a bunch of usability things, like how the vestibules are beside the door instead of blocking it. It's truly freestanding. Like all the freestanding tents, you still stick with the vestibules, which you can do here, but you can go 0 stakes and still have a vestibule. And other cool things, like you can still add trekking poles to make it even stronger. And you're also, one of the cool things, you're getting these lighter carbon fiber poles because we don't sell direct, so we don't sell through retailers. So we can basically put more money into making the product instead of having to keep it affordable. We can keep it more affordable because we just don't have other people marking it up. So you get lighter Easton carbon poles and it still costs less than all the aluminum tents on the market.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
can we talk about the poles real quick? Because we have, you sent out like a pre-production model to our good buddy Stephen Smith from My Live Outdoors, and that was so he put out a video about that became controversial, where basically you had one model. He was actually supposed to send it on to Dan Becker, and then in the process he like destroyed it, and he took full responsibility. He's like, this is my fault. I added a piece to it, the little tent pole helper sleeve, which is going to add tension onto the carbon fiber poles, which is not supposed to be there, which is going to further destroy the poles. And so he messed it up, but he still put the video out. And I think it caused some anger rage from your fans, who then like immediately jumped to your defense and like got really mad at this video. Like, did I get the story right?
Yeah, that's sort of right. We have amazing fans. We love our fans. They're passionate. And they do come to our defense, and they mean well. And maybe there's a couple that go a little, there's a spectrum there. So a lot of them are great. And there's, a few on the edges that can maybe take things too far. But we had, for that, we had a pre-production pole set that did have a glue issue. It was with the aluminum part, which I should preface this by saying the carbon poles are kind of like the straps, where it's like very controversial. Or more, at least more than you would think. Everybody thinks they're like out to like fly to the moon on this thing, and they're gonna survive a hurricane. And people get very, very passionate, which is great. Sometimes the conversation gets a little eccentric, but carbon poles, the little inserts are aluminum, and they glue into place. Where normally there's
not
a machine.
With wood glue, no wood glue in that one either, right?
No wood glue.
If only the what is the wood glue called? Wranglers? I don't know. Right? Anyway, wood glue. Yeah. So we glue them in, and then we did not try to save glue weight. But when we build a pre-production set, they don't use the machines. They're not like a machine. In production, there's a machine that glues them properly, puts it in, they dry, and then every pole gets tested. On the pre-production set, I'm not sure exactly how it's made, but it's probably some guy or gal just like squirting them in there, and usually it works, but not every time. So it was a pre-production pole set. One of the aluminum things did come out, and then Stephen attempted a repair, which was totally well intended. It just ended up not really. It ended up being problematic. Basically, what it is, it was a much stronger. It was a larger tube, so it was intended for a larger pole. And larger poles are much stiffer, like on a winter tent. Right. So the tubing has almost no flex. Where if you have a sleeve that's got a little bit of flex, it can distribute that load, just like how when you bend a pole, it sort of everywhere is equally flexing. But if you put a rock solid tube and bend, it's locked out all the flex inside the tube, and it's all just pressuring right on those two edges at the end of the pipe. So it's just like if you put a stick in a metal pipe and you bend it, it's just right on. You're just essentially trying to kink it over the edge of the pipe, and especially when it's loose, because then it's on more of an angle and there's leverage. The physics of it are complicated, but there's leverage, there's stress focus, and it's multiplied on the edge, so it wants to kink the poles. So a lot of, I think almost any lightweight pole is going to break like that. It was well intended, but the tent definitely didn't look great because it looks like it breaks easy, and it does break easy.
right.
In that circumstance, it's it does break easy because it is a sharp edge. So that wasn't a good look for the tent. So I know there's a lot of drama there, but carbon really is stronger for the weight than aluminum, and it's just what you want to do with that. Do you want to take that and make a pole set that's about the same strength but lighter, or do you want to make it about the same weight but stronger?
Right.
And if you make it about the same strength but lighter, if you ever have one break, then everyone's like, "Oh no, carbon! Like it's
it's not good."
So yeah, I mean, it really is a strong pole set. We do have another YouTuber that just did a wind test with it in some pretty extreme conditions, and then it did much better. He was quite happy with how it worked. And when he got it pretty extreme winds, when there was a bit of damage, it was actually aluminum, like some of the aluminum parts that started to bend a little bit. Like the carbon was, even then, and in quite extreme conditions, the carbon was fine. So it's not like, it's also not like we're the first to use this carbon. This carbon has been used in tents for like 20 years. It's just everyone. Yeah. So the carbon's good. It wasn't a good look for our tents, but
in the end, I think in the end, he ended up being a fan of the tent as well. And it's, and most people, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but most people aren't typically taking their tents into like extreme wind conditions. Like certainly some people are, or maybe they might encounter those, but I can't tell you how many times I've had like extreme, like I'm on a mountain pass.
Right.
Yeah, that's a tough one because people like to buy stuff for like the worst scenario that they sort of imagine they might want to be in. And even if they're in that scenario, you'd like to think you'd put in a little bit of thought. Like, I'm in a crazy storm. Maybe I should go somewhere like more sheltered than this, like pitching it right on the ridge or something like that.
Right.
So for sure. Most people are kind of, I don't want to say fear-based, but you buy sort of, oh no, what's going to happen? I feel more comfortable with something stronger. But it also, the reality is it never ends. There's always a heavier tent that's even stronger. So it is a trade-off. And that's something we talk about in our design philosophies. Like stuff's trade-offs. It's not this, I think it's crazy when companies like, we made no compromises and solved every compromise, because it's like everything's a compromise. The biggest tent's not the lightest tent, and the strongest tent's not the lightest tent, and all that kind of stuff. So you have to choose what's reasonable. And that's hard on the internet when everybody's going to like, this will get you killed, or I would never use that. Where I'm from, the winds are like 200 kilometers an hour every day, and that kind of stuff. And winds too. Nobody knows the real wind speeds. Like, people look at the forecast, it says it's like 100 kilometers an hour on like the top of the mountain, and then they're down in the valley, and they think that it does feel pretty intense. Like, winds do feel very intense. So you're down at the bottom of the valley that might only be 50, but you think you survived 100, and then you hear of another tent that can only do 80. And you're like, oh no, like that's not good enough for me because I go out in 100 all the time, and like you get knocked over if it's 100. Like, so it's a mess, and you don't really want to tell people like what they need, because some people are going to put thought into it and skill and understand that. Like, I am sort of pushing, like if somebody wanted to use our tents for mountaineering, I personally would like use them all the time, but I would also be a little thoughtful. And if the weather forecast was like a hurricane or something, I wouldn't just blindly get out, or I would, if it was crazy, I might dig a snow cave instead or something like that. And then the other 99% of the time, I'm saving a whole bunch of weight. But other people sort of want to blindly, some people want to just sort of blindly use the product, not think about it, not stake it out properly, not guide it out, and then blame the tent. So that's why it's hard to like say exactly. That's why I don't like the 3-season, 4-season thing.
The absolute nature of that, yeah.
Because like it can be windy and it can be crazy windy in the summer, and then if you say it's a 3-season tent, people think they can't go camping in the winter. If it's like a calm winter day with like no snow,
doesn't make sense.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
it just it should be more like moderate and severe weather or something like that,
Right.
but not
Yeah.
necessarily season.
Yeah.
Like, winter is higher
Yeah.
consequence, obviously, but
But you mentioned the
Yeah.
risky nature of the feedback that might come with various ratings or how you might label something online, but really like online is your friend. Like that's where people are grabbing their pitchforks and surrounding anybody who says anything bad about your gear. So I would just like to take this opportunity right now and say we are fans of Dan Durston and his gear. So you can come
He's
to our
totally
defense
afraid of
anytime
your
somebody
fans.
like
Yeah.
tries to jack us up, but just want to put that out there.
yeah, like give the fans a secret wink, and they can help defend you guys when you guys are caught doing something terrible on your podcast or trash.
Yeah.
Anything terrible. Oh my gosh.
Another
Oh my
scandal
God.
on the backpacking and Blizzard. Yeah,
another one.
yeah, another one.
It's
Not
hilarious.
the first one. Just another one. Oh my gosh.
Those guys again? They're still on the air.
Dan Durston figuring it out.
Well, they're going through a lot of hosts.
I was waiting for that. Yeah, I was
I
waiting
don't
for
even want to know what happened with the last one. But
Is
I
it-
just assume
I mean, is it- yeah.
down there.
that. Have you noticed, Dan, that it's probably
It's
after you're
hilarious.
on the show that there's a new co-host, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're the
Literally every
catalyst that
time.
does it.
My
Great.
fault. My bad. Yeah.
What are we gonna get Ben to say this time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. That's right.
Well, yeah. So you have a tent that worked, but have you ever invented something that just did not work? Like you thought it was gonna be cool, you were excited, and then it just kind of went in the trash can.
There definitely have been that type of thing. Partly that's because I come into this as an enthusiast, like you guys. We're like passionate about hiking. I love gear. I love it works. We want to make it simpler, lighter, stronger, better, all these things. But I don't have a design engineering background where I'm maybe gonna see all the problems that lay ahead. It can be sort of
Right.
naive,
Yeah.
not maybe a very flattering word, but we'll say unaware. That's a nice word for naive. Failed to predict. So there can be things like one example would be that for the X Dome, I knew that I wanted it to pitch fly first and inner first. And at first I thought, well, what we could do is have it sort of like a normal traditional tent where the poles click to the interior of the interior.
Yeah.
And you throw the fly over top, but because it's a straight rectangle, you could also, if it was rainy, you could just throw out the fly and slide the poles under. And that worked.
Yeah.
Like it would pitch fly first and inner first. The problem I didn't foresee that on hindsight is obvious is that the interior is a very unusual shape. It's like it varies on our 1-person, 2-person models, but on the normal,
Yeah.
the 2-person model, it's like the X Mid, where it's the mirror image thing is making it hard for me. But the floor is like a non-rectangular thing, and the poles are a rectangular. So it ends up being that the poles, it's not symmetrical, essentially. It's not connecting to both sides of the poles in some parts of the tent. So in those two vestibule corners, there's no interior sort of connecting to the pole. So you just have this long span of pole with no stabilization, and then it can move around and things like that. So on early prototypes of the tent, I didn't understand that. And then I was just like, the tent's just like super noodly and wimpy and it collapses. And partly it made it harder because there actually are a lot of really weak tents on the market that I didn't realize. So I was like, oh, this kind of seems normal because we had a bunch of other things.
It's normal. I've seen other tents break. So yeah, ours breaks. It's, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's normal, right? It just, you set a snowball on top and the tent collapses. That's
Oh my gosh.
3 seasons.
Hilarious.
So that took a while. And even to really understand freestanding tents took a long time. It was, I wanted to bring the X Mid floor plan into a freestanding tent, but it wasn't just like you just put it in there. It was like years of trying to solve these problems of how you solve it structurally and how you solve some other issues that it creates. Like in the first versions, we didn't have the crossbar, and then the doors were really short. There were just a lot of things to solve that I sort of took some wrong turns on because I just didn't sort of understand. Trekking pole tents are all like flat panels. It's like triangles essentially, and it's very easy to measure and calculate. And all of a sudden, you're into like curves and arcs and sort of stress gradients and
X and Y axis, algebra, calculus.
Yeah, we get it. Yeah, we totally understand what you're doing.
Yeah,
So about the freestanding tent, I was listening to a podcast a while back, and somebody actually asked you if you had a freestanding tent in the market, and you said no. Carl, you remember that? I think you were
Yeah.
asking
Okay.
the
No,
question.
this is a good transition because
I was
so what
trashing
happened
them, or-
last year was when we have somebody who's like innovative, such as yourself on the show, like I'm not afraid to make suggestions for future gear that you might invent. And I suggested a trekking pole, freestanding tent. Like I think my suggestion was with 4 trekking poles, so it'd be like for a 2-person. They both have trekking poles.
Yeah.
And at first you said it was impossible, and then you said you're working on it. So I don't know where that landed. But all I know is a year later, you don't have that out, but you do have a freestanding tent out, so you're like halfway there. So I got 2 more ideas for you. You ready for these?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So one's
These are
tent
trademarked
base.
though. These are trademarked, Dan. Just so you
Okay.
can
These are
steal
not.
these
You,
ones.
you can take these. All right. And you've kind of already spoken to some aspects of this already. So it seems like the most efficient way to, for ultralighters to have their gear is you want to have multiple uses for items. That's why the trekking pole tent is so genius, because you're using the trekking pole obviously for two different things, and you're cutting your weight down on the tent. So my thought is like, well, not everybody uses trekking poles. Like I don't use them when I'm backpacking. So what if we take this thought to the next level, and rather than having everything be focused on multiple uses, we just use the stuff around us. So could you design a tent that has adjustable clips, like the clip sizes adjust, so that instead of putting trekking poles or carbon fiber tent poles in there, you could just put like really long sticks in there, and those could be the poles of the tent.
Yeah,
My coaches.
it's brilliant for sure.
That's believable, Dan. Totally believable.
So aside from that, the kind of land managers and national parks might have issues with sort of people
That's true.
harvesting the structure for their tent every night. Aside from that,
You put it back.
I have forgotten my trekking poles and used sticks or tied to rocks for trekking tents.
Okay.
You can do it. What you find, and this is probably more of a nerdy answer than we really intended to get into, but what you find is that what tends to work well is to break it to the right length. But any stick that you can sort of break easily tends to be a little too flexy to like work well in the tent.
Right.
If
You got to use the green wood.
Sturdy
Yeah.
enough for the tent, you're probably not just like breaking it either. And then you do break it. Oh, if it's a hard one to break, you go to break it, and it like you think it's going to break in the middle, and it breaks like over on the edge or something like that. You're
Yeah,
like,
Dan, we don't break them. We got a 1-inch knife that we cut them with. So we don't.
You guys
break
are bushcrafters. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So you could use the sticks.
Okay.
And then you could have a tent with a hole, and it just sort of cinches around it. That's hard though, because then you're not hanging on the top of the tent. You're sort of pinching the side.
Yeah.
Which means you need to have it like you need to have some like almost like a ratchet or something that could really cinch, so that if you got a bunch of snow, it didn't just like whoosh and slide down the shaft.
Right. That's right.
Or if there was like branches on that, it would like stab your tent as it slid down the shaft. So it's there is a place for it. I mean, it's sort of what people do with it, like in bushcrafting with like a tarp, and they set it up with a bunch of sticks, and you can make like tarps that are closer and closer to tents. But as a backpacking mass market solution, you'd have sort of some troubles with land managers, and people don't want the hassle of finding sticks every night.
Fair enough.
Okay. Would your tent honor the warranty if we were using sticks and stuff to hold up your tent?
We do. We have people that do it. We kind of don't have a big distinction. So we have like what our warranty covers, but then we also, so far at least, I'm not sure we can do this forever, but so far we just repair everybody's tent for free. So we'll be we might be like, Ben, like you were kind of an idiot and you wrecked your tent. So it's not warranty, but we're still gonna fix it. So we're just not saying it's warranty.
But do you tell the people that like, hey, this is a one-time fix because you were dumb, or do you just kind of fix it?
We worded it a little more gracefully than that. We said it like a warranty that sort of doesn't cover sort of like damage and user error, so it's not officially covered by warranty. But we're happy to do a free repair out of goodwill.
All right.
Nice.
Gotcha. All right.
We'll call it like the Ben amendment to our warranty
clause.
Got my old claws. How about that?
That's right.
Training wheels and claws.
All right. My second invention, I actually have a prototype to show you. Okay. So a lot of people bring some sort of tool out into the backcountry. They bring, whether it's just a knife, or some bring like, like the Leatherman or the tool or whatever. But again, two uses for things, right? So I have invented something called the tool glove right here, where I have ingeniously attached 5 useful tools to the fingers of a glove, so it keeps your hand
Yeah.
warm.
Yeah.
And you got 5 tools.
That is
Yeah.
amazing. So when you're putting in a screw, you just use your pinky.
Right.
What do you put screws into in the backcountry?
That's always what I ask. I ask that to everybody when he shows us tool.
Out of all of these things, we get the apple peeler, we have the plasticware knife, the pencil, and then the metal fork. The screwdriver is the one that caught your eye there.
Well, I could use the plastic fork. I'd be in for that.
Okay.
Yeah, he uses the screwdriver to take the straps off his trekking poles now.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
You could. It's a beautiful invention. That it's like an ergonomic jackknife. Instead of having all your tools locked into this metal chamber, you've got them accessible. So definitely you should patent that.
Well, I'm not an entrepreneur, so I'm happy to license it out. And really, it would probably just take a couple Snickers bars if you want to license this to mass market it. That plus the stick tent too. So just throw it out there. You don't have to answer right now. You can think about it.
Yeah, you want like submit for royalties, or what are we talking?
Just the Snickers bars are good. I would take that, and
Yeah.
that probably wouldn't even cover the cost of me sending this to you. But you could probably come up with something. So just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is the
I bet you Dan already has it in the works. He's just being like sly, like, you know, because he's like, oh, interesting, a screwdriver on it, because he's like, mine has a screwdriver on the pointer finger, not the pinky.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you tied to the apple peeler, or can we put in like a tent stake? You could just sit there and stake your tent all night.
We had somebody from Alone on, and I was suggesting that he bring it, like he should have had this as one of his 10 items on the show alone. And he wanted to swap out something for like what was it, like a dough roller or whatever, a rolling pin.
Rolling pin.
Yeah. So, you know, if you want to go like 2.0, like the training wheels version, like we could make it where it's interchangeable parts for sure.
Yeah.
So, just something to think about.
Yeah.
Wait till you see the other glove. You know, I have them on both hands. So.
All right. Okay. So since you've been on, we now have a new segment called the lightning round.
I love
where you are competing.
Oh, he's heard of it.
Oh, have you? Okay. Yeah.
Well, I can imagine it's wonderful. It's a chance to kind of speak before you think and then say something dumb.
Well, some of these questions are simple, some may not be. I don't know. We'll have to find out. I never know what Ben's questions are going to be, but yeah. So you've got a minute to answer as many questions as you can, and I think Alice Ford, who was one of our last guests on, she's gotten the most. She got 13, I believe, right, Ben?
Was it 13? I know it was up there, but 12, 13, something like that. So yeah,
something like that. We'll confirm.
Yeah.
Confirm.
Is this
but either
like a
way,
right answer thing, or is this a long?
It's like a lot of opinion questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
There could be
what's
right
your
answers,
favorite
wrong
color
answers.
is not one of the questions, but it'd be a question like that, and then you just gotta.
Yeah, something really thought out like that.
Well, you'll see. You'll see. Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So
so minute 13 score to beat.
All right. Why do you think the Earth is flat?
What?
Because of asteroid impacts.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite trail snack?
Snickers.
Yes.
Ooh. How many cargo pants do you own?
0. 1 pair of shorts.
Nice. What's the most impressive non-Durston gear out there?
Ooh, you got hard questions. Blowing my time.
It's all right.
Zen Bibby.
Yes. Okay.
Favorite coffee?
Anything with a French roast. Like dark with the beans are shiny.
All right. How much do you bench press?
140 was kind of my peak. I haven't done it recently.
How many aliens have you seen?
0.
Where is one of your next trips taking place?
I only backpack in the Canadian Rockies pretty much these days. It's just too good.
All right. And time.
Favorite item?
All right.
Oh.
I blew too much time on the innovation one.
I got 4.
So we got 8 total. So you're actually tied for second place with a couple other folks who got 8 as well.
Okay.
13 was it's a pretty high standard. We probably shouldn't even say that person got 13.
I think third place.
Yeah.
I think it's third place. I think because I think we got 9. Was it 9? Yeah.
We should talk about this. Let's argue which place he has right out in front of him.
Yeah.
Why? Okay, Ben. Why did you ask that question out the gate up flat Earth? We're telling him it's gonna be like an easy question, like what's your favorite color? And you're like, why are you a flat earther? You're like accusing him with your question.
Well, I want to get his listeners involved, and they'll be like, Dan Durston, controversial. He thinks the Earth's flat. So
Yeah,
Dan, now's the
come out.
time. Do you think the Earth is flat, or where do you stand on that?
I think you should word the question where it sounds bad either way. Like Ben, do you still believe the Earth is flat? Yes or no?
There you go. That's the all right. Dan, would you like to replace Ben as the co-host moving forward?
Does it pay pretty well?
See,
not as well as Durston Gear probably, but it does include a lot of stickers.
Does he ask this question every time? Like, now I know why there's a co-host every time.
You can tell this is Ben's last episode.
That's right. We're gonna say farewell to Ben here a little bit.
Beginning to the end.
That's right.
Can you do a poll on the thing, and all our fans can vote to kick Ben out at the podcast?
Oh,
we like Ben. We're just giving you a hard time, Ben.
We need a Ben.
Yeah. No, it's not going to work. I've seen his fans and how they react, and now that Dan's like, let's outs Ben. That's all the fans are going to be like, yeah, this host is horrible. Do you guys even know does he know how to use a microphone?
Yeah. You're lucky there's
you
not
haven't asked that question before. Okay. All right, Ben, what's your next question, man?
So we talked about a lot of past stuff, future stuff. We've asked a lot of past stuff, but what do you got in the works coming up here?
Hey. I'm so excited about gear. We're always working on stuff. Our big line is the X-Mid tent, so we're always working on that. We're going to have some announcements on that in the coming months. It's something I see as kind of an advantage of our company is our ability to constantly innovate and update. As soon as you're through retailers, you're tied to at least product years. Like you can't put a product in REI and they just stocked up, and then 2 months later you're like, we have a new version, and REI is like, what the heck?
Oh yeah,
like now we have obsolete stock. So at the very least, like bigger companies are tied to like model years, but usually gear updates in 3 or 4 years, like 10 generations, things like that.
Yeah.
So you can have products that have like a problem with a pretty serious problem, and that don't get updated for a long time. So anyways, X-Mid tents are like going to have some cool updates in the next few months. And then the X Dome that just came out, that's our freestanding tent. That's pretty obvious where we're headed with that. Like we're going to flush out the lineup, and it'll look like the X-Mid lineup. So obviously there's the 1+ size. There's obviously going to be the 2-person. And then we're going to have that with a solid fabric interior that everybody wants in Europe and people want for winter in North America. And hopefully do a pro Dyneema version. I'm out of breath again. I've had like a cough for like 2 months. In my my breaths are cycling like the top 10% of my lungs.
I know how that. That's a bummer. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But so the X Dome will be flushed out, and then that kind of is a weird spot for us. That'll take like a year or two to flush out, but then we're kind of in a weird spot because the X-Mid came out like 2018. The X Dome started work not that long after. It's been this like project where I just sort of like took years to figure out how to make that work effectively. Right. And then now we're like, we're kind of done those. Like there's still all the work and updates and everything and fixes and improvements, but they're kind of done. And it's kind of like, what's the next sort of era?
Right.
And there's a lot there. Like in the tent space first, I feel like there are these sort of innovation is sort of slows because people are in a certain solution space, but they're all sort of looking at the same type of thing. Like they're always looking, if you're looking at like a hexagonal tent with an inner first pitch, there's not that many ways. Like you can move your pockets around and but it's nothing too dramatic. But then sometimes you can break the mold or like open the door to like something fundamentally different, and then all of a sudden you're in this unexplored area. And like I don't want to sound too grandiose, but we sort of have opened some of those doors with some of our tents using by moving away from some like long held things like a tent floor basically has always been either a rectangle or like a tapered rectangle or maybe a diamond. It's kind of like virtually every tent is one of those 3 floor shapes. So the X-Mid comes out with I'm doing the mirror image thing's getting me again, but it comes out with the non-rectangular parallelogram. Now in the X Dome, we're doing like an irregular trapezoid. When you start doing those things, they fundamentally open up new possibilities for like how you do vestibules, how you do pole structures, and so you're like, oh, like what about this? What about that? And so, anyways, there's kind of some fun unexplored area around our designs that we could. Some of it's a dead end. You're like, oh yeah, like we could do that, but it's just kind of weird. It's not necessarily better. It's just we don't want to be weird for the sake of weird. We want to be like different because it's better.
Right.
So
what about like a trekking pole that has like a glove on it? So you just put your hand in the glove and you get rid of straps.
There, you could do that. There's like a Nordic pole like that. I think you have you have a glove.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
correct.
Like,
well, I was thinking of a way you put the tool glove on it too. So it's just like your tools, everything. But yeah.
It's for people who can't keep their wrists in the straps. They're like the training wheels aren't kind of big enough for them. Then they get the full. It could be a shirt where the poles are attached.
Right. Oh my gosh.
You have to wear the shirt.
It's like a onesie with poles attached.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
So there's all that for tents, and then there's two other big areas that These are like more like not necessarily tied to us, but trends I would say in the backpacking space that are kind of interesting. One is in materials. So there's Dyneema that gets a ton of press, but it's still going to be like a long time to roll it out, in the sense that we have some Dyneema fabrics, but there's a lot of improvements that can happen in those. Dyneema can get in more stuff. Like Dyneema could be you can make hiking pants lighter and stronger, and you can make you can kind of make almost any fabric better. Right. And it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg right now for that. And we don't really have anything specific there, but like, for example, on sleeping pads, I don't have any like solutions for sleeping pads to like, it's like the trekking poles where I'd love to offer one, but only if we could do something cool that I'm excited about.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything right now for sleeping pads that I'm excited about, but one thing you could do is if you could make a fabric that instead of like a 20 or 30D nylon or polyester, you could do it in Dyneema. You could maybe have a fabric that has that durability weighing half, and then you could get maybe that comfort for quite a bit less weight. So there's some interesting possibilities there, and nobody makes a Dyneema fabric like that that's actually like airtight and can be pressurized. At least well, maybe there is, but not quite right for the application. It's a whole murky world, but that's just unfolding essentially.
Okay.
And then the other interesting thing trend that is happening is kind of with energy. So you see, like everybody takes their cell phone now. Everybody's kind of got battery banks, and then that ecosystem starting to build. So like the electronic pumps to inflate your pad. At first, it was lame because it was like, well, I could inflate it with this bag or with my breath, and like in 13 breaths or something. It's not a big deal. But then some of the pumps now are lighter than the stuff sack bags. So there's like pumps that are like 10 grams, and you're like, well, I guess like I could just plug it to my battery bank and away we go. And so that's something that's actually happening now. On the other end of the spectrum, do you guys see those Arc'teryx Mogo pants? Super pants?
No,
but I'm going to look them up right now.
They're powered they're like an e-bike, but for pants.
Okay. So they help you walk?
Yeah, they really are. I was like, that's ridiculous. And then I went to a talk, and you're like, huh. So they're a pair of pants that's kind of like a climbing.
Okay.
If you kind of broke your leg and you had one of those sort of like braces on your leg, like a knee brace or something.
Yeah.
Kind of is like that, but then it's powered and it senses like the torque in your leg and like learns your stride. And then in the power part of your stride, it just like doubles the power. And they were showing it. I went to a talk about it at a conference, and they were showing it as a mobility thing for people that have disabilities, or like people that can't walk well, all of a sudden can go up trails and climb mountains and get outside, and like the battery's like 6 or 7 hours, where you're like, it looks like a total gimmick, and you're like, I still think it's a gimmick, but I'm like, but that person who can like barely walk like did actually get to like hike up that mountain.
What? Okay. No. This is like, I'm calling false on this, right? Because they're not the only ones that came out of that. I saw one at the Outdoor Retailer show. A company. It's not a pant, but it's just like the exoskeleton, I call them like leg helpers, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's the same concept as the e-bike. Oh, like e-bikes are great for people who maybe like aren't fit enough to bike, or maybe like they have some disabilities or they're really old, right? No,
Yeah.
they're just for people, like everybody's buying them, right? So
Yeah.
don't you think everybody's gonna buy whatever, the latest version of the leg
The speed
helpers is, whether
pants
it's
or something.
Arc'teryx or something
Yeah.
else?
Yeah,
I mean, what
think-
happens though when the battery life goes out? Like you get to the top of the hill and you're like, wow, that took like way more.
And now you
I'm
got
gonna be
these like
stuck at the top of
20-pound
that
pants
mountain.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they
Yeah.
market it for like the kind of the frail because it's a good story. And who's going to be against that? Like, oh, we don't want we don't want people to get out of their wheelchairs. Like, nobody's going to be against that.
Yeah.
But then as soon as
Right.
and you think it's ridiculous for hiking, but then if you're hiking with 4 buddies and they all have these pants and you're just getting blown away, you're like, we got to
Right.
go back. It's like e-bikes,
Yeah.
right? You're like,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. And then everyone else has one and you're like, well, I kind of have to get one.
I'm not. No. I'm not getting one of those things.
No.
Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah,
So I
for
don't.
sure.
I'm not saying we are doing speed pants or super pants or anything like that. That is the other extreme. Like the batteries aren't there yet for like multi-day for hiking for that.
Right.
But there is stuff in between. Like for example, I don't know. This is kind of a crazy idea, but so for rainwear,
Mhm.
you're not going to ever have heat from a battery because it's just so much energy. Like you're never going to be like, I'm leaving my sleeping bag behind. I'm just going to like blow heat from this powered fan
Right.
like 8 hours all night. It would be a massive, massive amount of
Yeah.
energy. But rain gear right now for breathability relies on basically body heat and
Right.
and humidity
Yeah.
gradients, things like that. But you're not pushing a lot of moisture because like the actual amount of heat, like there's some heat, but not that much. But you could actually, I mean, this might totally backfire because it might be massively sweaty. But if you, for example, in cold conditions, anyways, if you had a little bit of heat, it's not enough. It's not trying to warm you up. It's just trying to create enough capacity, trying to expand the air enough that it can actually absorb moisture. Because if it's too cold and contracted,
Right.
the dew point's lower. So you just warm up the air like 5 degrees or something, and then you could help things breathe. Or you could have like a rain gear that's not using heat; it's using like a fan, where it's actually like cycling the air, and now it's pumping out the air. All of the I don't know what the innovations are. It's just that energy is becoming more portable and lighter, and that's just going to continue as we get into solid state batteries and all this kind of stuff. And it sounds like kind of like sacrilege because it's the outdoors and we don't want to like violate the wilderness. And there's I'm not saying either way. I'm just saying that is sort of a trend that over the next decade we're going to see some new products on.
Okay.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
You covered a
You
lot
guys
of
can-
ground there, man. Like that's.
I know. I feel like you're our
Yeah.
panel. Like you were just like, I'm gonna pitch all these ideas and see what sticks, and then that's what Dan Durston's gonna come out with next. Is like, which one
Right.
did Carl and Ben like?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
That's how
jackknife
it'll be
glove
determined.
and the super pants.
Super pants. We do Patreon trips with our podcast. We typically do a couple a year, and every time we do a Patreon trip, like we're pulling people from sometimes outside the country, sometimes across the country,
Pay
whatever.
them to come on
But
these
there's-
trips? How does that work?
What's that?
I said you have to pay them to come on these trips?
Pay them. we just bribe people. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like reverse
Yeah.
Patreon.
How much does Ben
basically.
pay someone?
I
per
heard
week?
you're coming. I heard you're coming this year, Dan.
$100 a day if it's with Carl, but if you're along, it's $500 a day.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
awesome.
I just feel every
That's
time
awesome.
every time you make a comment about me, Dan, I just feel like the like reviewers are just gonna be
You're
like,
going to be crying in the
Yeah.
background.
You
I can
get to
tell
the-
you. I know
Yeah.
you can take it. With a beard like that, I can tell you're used to taking it.
Oh yeah, he's good. Anyway, the point of me saying this is that every time we go, we're getting a variety of folks, and Durston Gear is always a part of it. Somebody has something that you've produced essentially.
Mhm.
So, but for those that haven't yet invested in any sort of Durston Gear, where can they find you? Where can we go get this stuff?
Yeah, we're less kind of conventional in the sense we have a few things. Like obviously we have a website. I think our website's really cool because we don't have a lot of products. When we do have a product, it's something I've thought about for a long time, and we have a very rich product page that like explains it. I like to think that even if you're not going to buy our product, like let's say you're not gonna buy the trekking poles, you're kind of skeptical about them or whatever it is, but it's still kind of interesting to like read the rationale for them and be like, oh, like that, that's cool or that's dumb or whatever it may be. But I think our website's pretty interesting. And then Instagram is a good place if you want to just like dip a toe in a little bit. Instagram's good.
Right.
We just post every week or two. We usually try to keep it pretty interesting. Like we actually just kind of post when there's something to say instead of just like we got to post every day. If you want to dip in deeper, then you got the Facebook group. So we got almost 14,000 people on the Durston Gearheads Facebook group. That's awesome. Like it's a fun community. I think some people on the outside get a little creeped out because it's like, oh, it's a cult and all this. It's just like, but we have had a few people get their tattoos though. I'm not sure. I think we've had at least 2.
I'll try to join and see if like they kick me out.
Yeah. We do have some standards, but we can see how it goes.
I can see why like there's a new host every time.
We do have some standards, but
like.
Yeah, I don't know. If
you might make. You might. There's a chance.
You know what, Dan? I don't know if we're gonna interview you again. I don't know about this either.
We're not, because he's the new guest host, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Cut to next week, and I'm there with Carl.
Right.
And
that's hilarious.
giving somebody else a hard time. So the Facebook group's a good one for like that. Like it's fun to be involved. Like we got our X domes that just arrived today, and so I'm on there like, hey, look, and there's like pictures of like boxes of tents, and it's like it's happening. You just like get a little more on the day to day. And there's so many people that if you have a trouble with anything, like how's my pack fit or my tent pitch or whatever, like 20 people are going to answer you right away.
Right.
And then aside from that, I'm kind of on a lot of the web forums too. It's not really somewhere that people can plug in, but I mean, I'm very kind of passionate in the communities, the Backpacking Lights, Reddit, Facebook, Ultralight Facebook groups. Just I'm sort of all over the internet talking, nerding out on gear.
For sure. Okay. Well, we can definitely link the socials, and then of course the Durston Gear website. We'll have that in our show description. So if people want to check out all the awesome things you're producing, they can do so. But hey, Dan, seriously, thank you so much for taking the time. Always an honor to have you on the show. Yeah. And thanks for putting up all the nonsense we threw at you.
Yeah. Thanks.
It was fun.
Awesome being here. Yeah.
All right, man. Always a pleasure to have Dan Durston on the show. I know it's your first time meeting him, so what reactions you got?
Well, I think the first one, Carl, is am I still going to be a co-host?
Yeah. Oh, because he was joking about that?
Yeah, he was joking.
You were concerned
right?
that people weren't thinking he was joking, right?
Yeah, that's right. I was nervous that like after reading Stephen Smith's reviews about the tent and the following Durston has, they kind of were a little harsh with him at times, and I'm like, great. Thanks. Now I'm a target. So you're welcome, Stephen Smith. I'm taking the bullets off of you and onto me. So
that's right. Yeah, we have a human shield for him now, for sure.
Yeah.
He was obviously joking around. He's just messing around.
Right.
He was bringing it, man. He had me rolling a couple times with some of the kind of the dry like sarcasm he was throwing in there. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. I was not prepared for that. But no, what else I liked is his knowledge was just incredible. The way he was explaining tent making and that, like he has a passion for it, which is what you want from somebody that does gear. If you don't have that, like even his enthusiasm for like talking about gear that like, oh, well, they have 9 grams. We don't want that. Let's get it down lower. And I just never thought about like gram weight of glue.
I know glue passion was definitely something I learned from this conversation. And I feel like I know more about glue, and I appreciate that. And now I understand why you can shave a little bit here and a little bit there. And just kind of thinking through some of these things. And so I think the deal is like he's thinking like an ultralight backpacker because he is one. And what he's suggesting, he's not picking on any one brand, specifically the trekking poles, but what he's suggesting is that people are like, they're still making good products, but they can simply be easily improved upon if you think from that perspective. So
correct. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, now I want to just, get some trekking poles and be like, how much grams do you guys use in this one? I mean,
like you want to ask the manufacturer.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Just
all right. So let's pretend I'm the manufacturer. Let's do a little role play here. And you approach me. We've established some sort of rapport. So you feel comfortable asking me a question. You get one question, Ben. What are you going to ask?
I'm going to turn the lights down, have a single light bulb above your head, and just be like, Carl, how much glue do you put in your hiking stick?
Your hiking sticks? You're going to yell. You're going to yell at me like that.
Yeah. And my hands would slap the table. I'd stand up, intimidation, and just ask, how much glue do you guys use in your trekking pole?
Yeah. And you feel like they would have the answer ready to go.
I feel like they'd be terrified and probably just be like, I don't know.
If
I
10?
Like, throw out some number, like 10 pounds. And it's like, well, what? So
yeah. Okay. So, okay, I would say that for me, the low point of the conversation definitely happened immediately with, again, like first question out the gate. Like, I don't know why is this hard? I don't understand why this is a hard thing, Ben. Can you explain to me the scenario here?
What question? Verify what question. Was it the office
Okay.
when I asked him what room he was in, or the
That was
follow-up
fine.
question?
Like that was
Yeah.
sort of fine. Like that's definitely fine for the
Yeah.
YouTubers because they can see what he's in. Like, and you
Yeah.
described it so then everybody who's listening, they can understand what you're referencing. So that was fine. Okay, so
Yeah.
you got your question in, and then we're
Yeah.
going on. Okay, like now, let's dig in here.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna interrupt. I'm gonna throw out a second question, but with my second question, which actually was a good question, by the way. Second
Yeah.
question, I am going to pre-scold him and warn him, you better stinking not go on and on about your answer on this one.
Well, I wanted it short because in my mind, Carl, I know what you're gonna do. Is like, you can't, just like we're doing now, you'd be like, hey Ben, next time you ask a question, let's have some parameters. You can't make fun of me. You can't have this happen. And can you make sure it's an answer that's gonna be quick? We don't need the guest talking for 10 minutes.
I didn't say that wasn't a parameter.
No, I feel like that would be if I didn't say
No.
preface that with a short thing like, hey, I know I just met you, Dan, but can you keep it short? Like, I think you're gonna get long-winded here.
That's what you did. That's what you did. I was terrible. I was like,
I know,
super
because
offensive.
if I did, he probably would have
Super
talked. Maybe he would have told the whole story. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that's
Okay.
why-
So
maybe that's
behind the
why-
scenes, I gave Ben 3 parameters for his intro question. All right. So I said that now I'm like on the spot here. So I said that it can't cause confusion. Like he can't be like, wait, what are you asking me? I don't get it, because it's like some sort of inside joke. And so the second one kind of has to go with that. Like, I don't want you using the question to make fun of me because he may not get the joke. And again, it's going to cause confusion. And then I don't want you to cause any sort of like awkward answer where he's unsure about what he has to say because he doesn't really know what you're asking.
So
I think
it feels
your first
like
question was good.
Yeah.
Your second question was good, but there's 2 questions, right?
Well, I told you that my first one wasn't my real question. That was just like, where are you? Because it looked like he's in like a laboratory classroom, so it looked weird.
Okay, but that's like, okay, so what you're saying is you're trying to like establish some rapport and get to know him, but like we did that. Like we already.
No, we didn't. The guests didn't. They're like, who's this guy? Why is he sitting here? And why is there 2 pictures behind him? So I thought maybe
when I say you get one question, you get one question. What's your question? In your mind, you're like, well, actually, I'm going to parlay that into 2 questions.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's exactly what I did.
All right. Well,
yeah.
I would just say like, you're not allowed to ask the first question anymore because it's going to cause, like, at some point, somebody's gonna get mad at you and even more mad than threatening to take over your co-hosting job. But I'm like, but it's like one of those like dumpster fires or train wrecks. You're just like, I just kind of want to see what happens.
Let's see where this goes.
So I don't want it to be a dumpster fire. I don't want it to be a train wreck, but that's where it's gone. Like the last 4 times in a row.
Oh, only in your mind, Carl. Only in your mind has it been bad.
Okay. All right. Let us know. Let us know if you're. Let us know in the comments or wherever you are. Am I overly judgmental about Ben and his first couple questions, or am I on target here? What do you guys think? Okay. Any other takeaways?
No, that's the 2 I had. I'm afraid to talk now. So yeah,
no, you're not. No, you're not. Incorrect.
What was your takeaway? Do you think he's gonna come out with a glove all of a sudden, or something else?
Well, based on last year, he won't come out with like the tool glove. He'll come out with some other kind of like cool glove inspired by us, and then he's like, "Yeah, I always had that in the works." So
yeah, that's been there for a while. Yeah, so we'll see.
Right. I don't know. Yeah. It is interesting because like he's kind of all over the place, with the gear he's come out with. Like you just never really know, so it's a kind of a surprise.
Yeah.
But all right,
I liked him. Gearhead. It was cool.
Yeah. So you got trivia for this one?
I do. Tent trivia.
Tent trivia is coming up right after this. The trail is calling your name. Are you ready? Are you really ready? Our good friend Rowan from Summit Strength can get you trail ready. Rowan uses rock-solid evidence to design a specialized training program just for you. There are plenty of cookie-cutter programs out there that will get you only halfway up the mountain. Make it to your adventure summit with Summit Strength. The link to your success is always in our episode description, but you can check out all the information you need at summitstrength.com.au/online. It's time to be strong and pain-free for your next adventure. All right. So tent trivia is brought to us by Teton. And I was actually poking around on the Teton website yesterday. And I came across their trucker style hats. Are you
Ooh.
a big hat guy?
I am. I wear them all the time.
Like trucker style?
I got a new hat on today. Yeah. Got a new hat on today. And yeah. Are you?
All right. Yeah, I'm a big hat guy. Not what I'm teaching, obviously, but I like wearing hats, and I wear them when I'm hiking. I wear them when I'm running. Blocks my head from the sun, and yeah, they got a cool one. They got a cool one that I think I might try to get.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, check out that plus all of the budget-friendly, high-quality backpacking gear, TetonGear.com. So, all right, you got tent trivia. What you got?
All right. Are you ready for this? 10 trivia.
Yeah.
The Hyperlight Mountain Mid 1.
Mhm.
Do you know how much it weighs? That's not my question, but it would help.
I
if you
don't
did.
know.
You
I
probably
have no
don't. Oh, okay. So, which one weighs less?
Okay.
Or what weighs less than this 10? All right. You got
Mhm.
Cheetos party size puffs, 4 peak refuels, 1
Okay.
quart of backpacking and blistered bagged water, or me with an anvil.
Okay. How does that relate to the tent?
It's a tent. It's a Hyperlight Mountain Mid 1 tent.
Maybe you're not understanding the question. Are you saying what weighs less, either the tent or all of those things?
No, what weighs less than the tent? One item that I just
Which
said
of those?
weighs
Oh, now I
less.
got you.
Yeah,
Those
oh my
items
gosh,
weighs
yeah,
less than
all
the
right.
tent. Okay. Okay.
Should I reword it?
Okay. So let's see. So you get the quart of water weighs 2 pounds. So I'm gonna say no. The party size probably weighs close to 2 pounds. Maybe on that one. Not the anvil. What was the fourth one?
4 peak refuels.
I'm gonna go 4 peak refuels is like 6 ounces ish a piece. So 24 ounces. I don't know how much the tent weighs. I don't know. So what you're basically asking what's the lightest of these items, right?
Yeah, that's what you do to me, Carl. So that's what I decided to do for you. How does it feel?
It feels good. I like it actually. I like it a lot.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna go with the 4 peak refills.
Oh, that's incorrect. It's the Cheetos party size puffs.
Okay.
And I forget. I didn't write down what they weighed, but they were like, I think
Okay, that's a great
6.4 ounces.
Great trivia question. Don't even know why that's the right answer. Nice. Okay.
Oh my gosh! No, I had it. I just didn't write down what it was. All right. You ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Who is the famous tent maker of the 1800s? You got Joshua Purdy Brown, Phineas Barnum, Bailey of Bailey Circus, or L.L. Bean?
So there's Barnum is one answer, and then Bailey is a different answer. Is what you're saying?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I don't know. I don't ever buy LL Bean stuff. I don't know anything about that. That's the only one I recognize as a tent maker. I think. I don't even know if they make tents, but I guess I'll go with them.
Which one?
LL Bean.
No, it's Joshua Purdy Brown. He made the tent famous. He actually, I don't even know if he
Okay.
was a famous tent maker, but he just made the tent famous because he was the first one to do a circus.
Okay. So you don't even know if he's a famous tent maker, but that was your question?
Yeah, I
Okay,
forgot to word it
okay.
differently because it's actually like which one was the famous for using tents, and it's actually that guy because he.
Okay. All right. Well, it's
Yeah,
good to
he's-
reword
he's
it
a circus.
after I got it wrong. That's good timing on that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Question.
Yeah, so I'm just doing exactly. I was like, when I'm doing trivia, I usually do it easier, but I'm going to do it exactly how Carl does it, where I'm just like.
You should.
throwing
You
out
should definitely
nonsense.
change
Yeah.
questions and modify them after I've answered. That's how I do it for sure.
All right. Are most tents single stitched, double stitched, half stitched, or no stitches?
Well, definitely stitched at the seams. So I'm gonna say double stitched.
Oh, you're correct. So you got 1 out of
Okay.
3.
I'm just envisioning the stitches. All right. Well, good thing I didn't go over. But thank you
Yeah.
for the informative trivia ultralight question. Okay. All right. We got some updates on the giveaways. So one of our giveaways was the Teton tent, and I didn't think through this well enough. This is my mistake. Where I said you had to leave a review, but I can't respond to reviews on the Apple Podcast app.
Oh,
So I don't.
yeah.
So like I want to. So anyway, can you just this is terrible. So it's like now it's this 2-step process. So I feel really bad about this. But if you could just follow up with some comment somewhere, socials, YouTube, email, that you were the one that left the review. Even if you don't win, I'll send you something. So it'll be worth your while. And then we'll update who won after that. I didn't want to do the drawing until I got everybody's
Gotcha.
name officially. So I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, there's that. And then you got a shout out, right?
Yeah, shout out to Rowdy Hiker. We back a while ago. We had a Mission Impossible request where we challenged them to do some things, and Rowdy Hiker had his son pack his bag for an overnight excursion. So he had no idea what was in his bag, left it to his son, and then went out, did a backpacking trip. So shout out to him. For
sure. Yeah, you can check him out on YouTube, and drama ensues for sure as a result. So it's actually, he did a really good job with that one. So yeah, thanks for playing along. Really appreciate you. And we have a new Patreon supporter. We've got Jonathan from Indiana. So Jonathan is actually somebody who is hoping to go backpacking somewhere in the Western Mountains. And he's looking forward to what we got in store for the future Patreon trips, which those should be out anytime now if they're not already out on Patreon, because we want to throw some dates and some things your way for those that are interested in that. And so thank you so much for supporting us and being part of the B&B family. Last thing, after we close out, we haven't heard from Rocky, our good buddy, the perpetual overpacker, but one of my best buds. Love the guy. And he has a reaction to the Timber Cleghorn episode, which is definitely one you should check out. Check that one out. That one is worth your time. So he had a very strong reaction to that one. So we're going to close out with that. Ben, you got anything else?
No. Just remember, if you're not trying new gear, you're not trying anything.
That's right. The age-old proverb. Thank you, Ben. All right. Have a great week, everybody, and God bless.
B&B. Hey, it's Rock. Hope everybody's doing well. Just calling in because I actually called in, or not calling in, excuse me, I sent in an MP3 because of Timber's episode. Oh, my word. Timber, brother, what a great episode. Praise God for how, just genuine, how genuinely you just talked about your relationship with God. And, and what incredible stuff the Lord's having you do. I mean, just that line where you said, hey, God, if you can use my life, just please do. That type of thing. And I just want to encourage the whole B&B. Think about that. I mean, what better way to live your life than for the God of the universe? What better way to spend your time on the trail than to talk to the one who made that trail and to talk to the one who made everything that you see from the trail, the epic views that you see from that trail were all made by, this awesome God, Yahweh, who sent his son Jesus to die for your sins. And so, Timber, just thank you for that interview, man. That interview and that episode really blessed a lot of people, man. And praying it just blesses tons more. Timber, God bless you. Everybody else, God bless you. Let's go get them on the trail and in the football field, everybody.